All right, everyone. We do with Twitter Spaces, but I'm hoping this works. Let's see here. All right. Yay! Let's see here. Testing, testing, one, two, three. Oh, testing.
Hello?
I can hear Nitin. Oh my goodness. Let's see.
Okay,
Priscilla?
perfect.
Okay.
Yes! Oh my goodness. When technology works, we love to see it. Oh, this is amazing. All right.
Yeah, we were just testing Twitter Spaces.
Yes, 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 yes. God bless. God bless them and shutting down all their APIs. Well, very topical, y'all. Very topical. Well, and on that subject, y'all, while Tara's waiting to connect, I want to say thank you to everyone who is listening to this recording, and to anyone who's tuning in live. Today's topic is something near and dear to all of our hearts: UI versus API, the good, the bad, the flaky. We're going to dive into some fun questions. These spaces go by so quickly. And so, first, without further ado, Nitin, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and why you're passionate about this topic?
Yeah, sure. So, myself, Nitin, I'm the founder of Synapse QA community space for testers and also working as engineering manager in Fave. So, I have been working, when I started my career, I have been working more into UA sort of automation. And then as I progress, I actually started to do more into API tests. And that is where I learned we can optimize a lot of things. We can have faster feedback, and we can earn a lot of value out of our automated tests by doing by integrating API tests into a mix of API and UI tests. So the topic is closer to me, and I hope it will be an engaging discussion with all of you.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've got some juicy topics to cover, y'all. So I appreciate you. Priscilla, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're passionate about this topic?
Everyone, I'm Pricilla. So currently I'm working as a team leader with Billenium and Nithin S.S Malaysia. So more towards when it comes to the professional testing part that we do. Uh, I'm associated with APIs for more than 3.5 years. Uh, it's similar story to what Nathan mentioned. Initially, I was doing more of front-end automation. I know there should be a lot of fans around, but I wouldn't say that I didn't like it at all. But when I started testing with APIs, maybe it was kind of love at first sight. I started loving it. So, of course, this topic is very special, and Tristan knows my relationship with APIs as well. So I'm eagerly looking forward to this topic and too much to hear from Nathan and Thara as well. I'm a great fan of both of you as well. Thank you.
They are special, special souls. I'm actually kind of enjoying this. I don't know if y'all can see this connecting icon with Tara. It's really, it's terrible. I'm the worst stage mom ever. I'm just watching her struggle to try and connect a speaker. But, we're going to sort it out because this is what we do. Tara's going to murder me later. And y'all, I want to dive in. If anyone ever has any questions, you can always raise your hand. But for some of you who are listening to this recording, you had sent some questions in advance. And I just want to dive into it. Y'all, I'm curious for you all. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around, UI versus API testing, understanding the benefits. Could you maybe at a very high level for our listeners just share some of the benefits of API testing that you've seen in your career? And I'm going to start with Nitin first.
Okay, so I would like to start with a story from my early days of my career. So we had a very close developer friend who was working closely with me, and when we wanted to do API tests, he was actually mentioning, we do write many unit tests. Why you guys need to write API tests? So I feel like it's a common question, not only to testers. Actually, many of the developers don't understand what exactly API tests do or how exactly we can do that. And it's not same as unit tests, right? So what I could say is we can get benefits in terms of like we can test all the endpoints no matter where they are hosted. We can quickly ensure the services are up and running all the time. We can ensure that we are not having any compromises on our authorization and not providing any unauthorized entities to attackers. And also we can have faster feedback and additional quality data. Yeah, that's few things I would like to quickly highlight as benefits of API testing from my side.
I love that. We also love a good story. Priscilla, I'm curious for you at a high level, for anyone who's just tuning in, what have been some of the benefits you've seen for API testing in your career?
Sure, Tristan. One major thing which till date that I feel is like towards spotting one of the few of the major functionality related defects. Because when it comes to UI, we all got that user inside us because the tester wears different hats, as we know. So that user will peek in, and sometimes that might hinder us to cover some of the core functionalities. But when it comes to API testing, since you don't have the UI here, there are a lot of possibilities that we focus more towards the functionalities, and we'll always try to test the different flows, workflows, and user flows, right? So that will uncover a lot of potential bugs. And also, I have seen, and we have also discovered some of the performance and security related bugs as well, because we don't know like behind the UI. Sometimes the pages are getting loaded for a longer time, and sometimes this APIs are the culprit, right? So they have to be fixed. So it's not about the issue with the UI or something. Most of the times, the API calls are really taking a lot of time. So sometimes we have even found more of the performance and security related bugs. Even the developers being sometimes they are really proud of like what we have done.
I love that. And security is such a hot topic right now, right? And so, like, I love that you're already talking about how API testing can prove the value of your role and function as a quality professional just by uncovering this as well. I want to zoom out of this just for a second, too. For anyone who is new to API testing, what are some specific resources that, because we're going to get into some juicy comments, y'all. But I want to first just talk a little bit. What, Priscilla, would you say are like, what are your top three resources for anyone who is brand new to API testing that they should be checking out?
Which I'm always evangelizing here to our testers who are new to this API domain is like first learn the technical terms, because other when compared to other types of testing, they have a lot of technical terminologies, and only when we understand more about these technical terminologies, we can communicate better with these stakeholders. Either it is your product owner or your API developer, right? You need to know more about these API technical terms, and that will give you a lot more confidence to present yourself in a better way. So that is something which I always evangelize, because don't directly start with writing API test cases. Don't do that. Don't ever please do that mistake. This is a kind request from my side. Always focus on the technical terminologies first. Try to understand more about the APIs. Play through the public APIs. So first you have to strong with your API knowledge, then you can start with your API testing knowledge. That's what I would say. So when it comes to resources, I would always say go for the public APIs, which is in the sense like they don't need any sort of prior authentication methods. Maybe some would just ask for your API keys, and that you can just get it by creating an account. That's it. So play through the APIs, and when particular resources, I would say like there are few books. Maybe after this, I can send you some link. But I have been personally following few people. So I have been closely associated with Postman Asset. So there are a lot of good resources, common API testing resources in Postman, and I do write a lot of blogs about it. So, and I have some tutorial documents also. Just if someone is really looking out, please reach out to me. Don't feel anything like I'm always up. So, any other specific resources, we can share the links after this, Tristan.
I love that. We are definitely going to be tuning up a storm. And I think you said some really good points there around understanding the terminology first. Nitin, any other recommendations you have about walking first before you run, around learning about API testing?
I would highly recommend to follow Priscilla because she is my go-to person whenever it comes to API. And yeah, plus one to what Priscilla mentioned. So we should get our fundamentals right and talk more to your developers and understand the technical terminologies from their side. That's how I picked up my journey with APIs because I bought them coffee, I bribed them, and that's how I got closer into the technical terms of APIs. And if some resources I would recommend, there is a API testing challenge, if I'm not mistaken, by Alan Richardson. He curated a set of challenges which we can play around with. And there is one API web service roadmap or testing pathway by Catherine Clockey. Yeah, so these are two resources I could highly recommend to have uh, to check it out. Yeah.
Those are really, really good resources. And I think that kind of helped me inform this next question. Priscilla, you mentioned a little bit about Postman. One of the things I feel like, other than Postman, I'm like, Postman has really cornered the market in this era. Like, I'm curious for either of you, what are some other tools and or trends that you're seeing around API testing emerge that we should be on the lookout this year?
Comes to the like, because I see two part of questions. Like, one is like, first part I'll take it as different set of tools other than Postman user can
Hmm.
really get onto. The second part we'll discuss about the trends. So the first one, when it comes
Oh,
about tools, of course you are right. Other than Postman, a lot of tools are coming because people understood the importance of API testing, and it's not only for developers. So they understood the importance. So obviously, many tools are coming up in market. So other than this, I have personally used Insomnia, Curl, Hopscotch, Catalan, and SoapUI years before, but right now I'm not using. And one thing which I would like to give a shout out here is like Tristan, many low code, no code tools are really trying to hop on, and especially in this API testing area. So I would always suggest the testers to give it a try because they are really investing a lot of R&D in this area. So there are a lot of low code, no code tools which is in coming into market like Test Sigma. So it's always good and it's worth a try. And when we talk about API testing trends, what I strongly see is like we are seeing a lot of GraphQL APIs which is being developed. So it's mandatory for testers to have a knowledge about it. And API testing is not only it's going to be about API automation or API manual testing. It's more drifted towards a kind of end-to-end testing. So other than UI, APIs can do all your validation, your performance. They can do your penetration test. They can do your security test. They can be even your partner, which can help you reduce the load in UI. I'm not telling like you can completely skip your UI testing, but when you are focusing more towards your API test, you can reduce your load in UI test, right? So I believe these are the trends that I'm seeing right now.
I appreciate that. I'm curious, Nitin, for you, is there anything you wanted to add on to that before we get into some juicy topics?
I think I will just continue from where Priscilla left off. So,
Do it.
having a combination of both UI and API will be something like what we need to look out for in the future. Because, say, for an example, if we are having a product creation test case, which is done from the UI, and it takes 1 minute to run from the UI level test. And say if we have a edit product test case, um, in order to do that edit, we actually don't need to run the UI test, which adds the product again. We can actually use an API to do that add, and then we edit from the UI to validate the UI process of editing. It actually saves a lot of time. It is a combination of both API and UI tests. And that is how we actually optimized our automation framework in terms of taking 6 hours runtime. We actually reduced it drastically to 30 minutes with the combination of both front end and API level tests.
Why do you think, though, and this is super helpful, why do you think that so many, and I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Priscilla, I'm curious for you both, why do you think so many of these test automation solutions where they're low code. No one says codeless anymore, right? But why do you think so many of these solutions have been so UI focused and not until recently really starting to talk about API testing? Other than Postman, obviously. Priscilla.
Yeah, I would say it's more towards running towards the same race, Tristan. Like they are missed to focus towards this, and because few years before, even I can strongly see that there was not too much of knowledge or this kind of even exposure towards APIs, right? Because they strongly believe that's a backend testing and testers don't need to get involved in this. So that was one reason. Like everyone was running towards the race of UA automation, but now I think everyone have realized the importance and the output, like what API testing would bring on, and every organization has understood the importance. And when the architecture is involving APIs, obviously, then it demands the API testing. So they are asking the testers to scale up, and we all know that that's the reason that for the past few years it was being one of the niche skill. 3.5 years back, when I started with APIs, I was telling to my team, for sure, mark my words, in few years, definitely we will have specific roles asking for API tester. And now I could see that in LinkedIn, which is happening. So I will feel like, okay, so something which I predicted is happening right now. So because I understood the architectures are getting built in a way, so obviously there are a lot of microservices involved, and definitely we need to focus more towards API. I believe the trends are changing right now, Tristan. So what you mentioned was there, but I believe for the past few years, definitely the trend is changing. That's what I could realize it from now. Nithin can add if I missed any.
Yeah, I think the low code tools, right, when they started to launch in the market, they initially focus more on UI. And as time progressed, they are actually moving towards more integrating API testing. Majority of the tools, if we look at each one of them, now all of them actually have one piece which covers API testing. So, yeah, we could definitely say that it's the trend and they are actually following the trend.
I can appreciate that. And I feel like I want to thank you both for being on the forefront here. And I know, Priscilla, you've been fighting this good fight for quite some years now. You said something, Nitin, that I really, really appreciated recently on LinkedIn. You said, and I quote, even with good practices in writing them, end-to-end tests are more prone to non-determinism problems, which can undermine trust in them. In short, tests that run end-to-end through the UI are brittle, expensive to maintain, and time-consuming to run. I want to talk a little bit more and I want to unpack that. And I want to specifically talk a little bit about the cost when it comes to flaky tests, right? So, can you define for our wonderful listeners what is a flaky test
Mm, so something that
to you?
frequently fails, um, I would say, right? We can actually eliminate the flakiness issue by having a single word not. So we need to understand what not to automate, where not to automate, and why not to automate. So if we could answer these three questions when we are doing a feasibility study of any of the features to be automated, actually it stops flakiness. It becomes more proactive sort of solution than becoming reactive after having a flaky solution in place. And flakiness, for me, it shouldn't be only because of the test issues or code issues. It could be mainly because of infra issues or something related to our, if we are running in emulator or simulator, something related to emulator and simulator can also cause flakiness. So understand the root cause why the flakiness happens, and then we need to evaluate and revisit on the issues. And maybe the test itself is not valid anymore. We may need to delete that. So when I started my career with automation, I was so reluctant to delete tests. And then I realized there is a value in deleting tests, but we need to identify which one exactly we need to delete.
I love that. I feel like we're like on a talk show. You're so succinct with your responses, both of you. My goodness, this is good. Priscilla, would you add anything to that? Thinking a little bit more about like, I know we defined what a flaky test is, but is there anything you would add? And just as a follow-up question, Your Honor, are there any benefits and or ways that we can unlock the potential of flaky tests? Because we're going to deal with them regardless. Like, what do flaky tests teach us, I guess, is that question.
Exactly. So first thing, it's a kind of it's not that really bad term, and we couldn't escape this world. That is what which I wanted to talk about. Like no one could escape this flaky test. Everyone have to face this situation. Similar to some kind of things that we face in our personal life, that we couldn't skip or escape from this. We have to deal with this. I was even reading a blog where Google is also striving hard to manage this flaky test, that they are running longer result, and it needs lot of R&D. And I would say there is no specific resolution saying like dot, this is what you have to do and you can fix all your flaky tests. No, there is nothing have been discovered so far like that. Every test automation will have your flaky test, and it doesn't mean that your team is not efficient enough to do, or your code is not efficient enough to do. It's not that way. As Nathan mentioned, there are multiple causes for that. It doesn't just mean because of the code. But what personally I have felt and what I have researched regarding this flaky test is like, obviously we all have the habit of rerunning the test cases immediately once we have this failed ones. It was passing before, so now it was failing. Obviously, that night's sleep is being screwed because of that single flaky test. I have personally felt it before. So what we do is we'll immediately rerun. So obviously, then if you are rerunning an entire test suite for one single test case, obviously it will take a lot of time. So what I have personally advised my team to do is like, just check for dependencies, the first part, and check for your weights, where you have placed what sort of weights, or maybe the weights are causing this kind of flaky test, which is being failed, which is being getting failed when it was passing initially. So we would always pick if there are no dependencies, and if we don't spot any sort of direct flaws, then obviously we'll separate those test cases, and we have tried to monitor it for a while. And then we maybe sometimes it has really helped when we have collaborated with the developers together to understand more about the problem, Tristan.
I really appreciate you. Gosh, you're taking us to API testing church right here, and I'm obsessed with this conversation, both of you. I want to go back. You said so many things. No, seriously. But one of the things too is, can you talk a little bit more about weights and how you determine those weights, just for anyone who's new to the concept?
Uh, Talk about, as we study about the types of weights for our interview questions, right? But when we implement in our code, there is no single rule like only this kind of weight is going to be helpful, or this is going to be working out for your code. We all have to understand your UI better, and how your when you're trying to navigate from one page to next page, like how your front end is being designed. Based on that, you can try to understand more, and you can try to implement your weight methods. And because so far I haven't seen, even in my code, I don't have any single type of weight in through the entire code. There are different types of weight, as we all know. So based on your application flow, you can try to customize your weight in every single line of code. That's what I would say. Maybe, yeah, nothing you can add.
That's and for everyone who's listening in on this amazing recording and or community conversation. We want to say thank you to Priscilla for being up so early in your part of the world, and Nitin for being up so late on your impromptu work trip to India. Yes, yes, yes. Um, we'll let Nitin take a moment to get to follow up with that. With that, though, Priscilla, one of the things that I feel like you've been so effective in your career has been your ability to influence, right? And to be able to pull your software development teams in earlier when problems arise and even beforehand. What have you seen when you talk about bringing in your development team here and talking about addressing flaky tests? What are some strategies that you employed early on in your career that were not effective, that you would advise others to not do?
My early days of testing, that's a very lovely question, Tristan. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Because when I consider myself as a younger self tester, I have done a lot of mistakes. Of course, I have quoted this example in many places, but I would like to tell it here as well. I was a programmer trainee, and my first organization, I was executing a SQL query without a where statement. So I still, whenever I execute an SQL query without a where statement, so till date, whenever I write my SQL query, like that memory will pop up my mind. So I have my on-site coordinator, and he was the person that who patiently explained me that without a where, if you are executing an SQL query, what will happen? Like the entire test data, whatever testing process that you have done, whatever entries that you made, and your test data that you have already created within your snapshots, everything is being messed up right now. But it's a test environment. Luckily, we own an environment and we can play around it. That's fine. So in your entire career, after this, never ever execute an SQL statement without an where class. So that was the greatest lesson I had in my life. I know it might sound silly, but that was one of the greatest lessons I had. So a person who is going to teach you, in my career, I had two sort of persons. Like there are set of persons who taught me how I should be, and there are a set of persons from whom I learned like, okay, so I shouldn't be like this kind of leader when I grew up. So there are two different things that I learned from my leaders. So personally, what I regret for doing in my younger self is like I thought all my days like learning the client application and understanding more about it is what makes me a better QA. But no, thinking about up beyond that, thinking out of box, and like don't shy away from the developers just because like we always think that they are into too much technical, and these technical guys won't understand or listen what I talk. So I was doing this mistake, but right now I really feel more confident, and I can represent my team, and I can speak up for myself, and I can speak up for my team. I believe these are the things that I could think of right now.
I absolutely adore that. And you said a few things I want to unpack. I just want to say for anyone who's just tuning in, bless Twitter and all their changes. But we still love to have these amazing leadership conversations. Before I dive in a little bit into that fear of your software development team, I want to hold a space as well. Nitin, same question that I asked Priscilla too, thinking a little bit more around flaky tests and what you did early on in your career to get in your development teams engaged. What's one thing you would not recommend to others to do that you did early on in your career?
Mm, don't blindly test our tests because sometimes tests will have bugs also. So and don't fall in love with what we write, because when I was into automation initially, I always wanted to see green. Always my test has to be passed. So then I learned having a pass all the time is also an issue. You should sometimes get some flakiness, or you should sometimes get some failure so that you can dig deeper and understand the application and architecture more. So questioning more our own tests help us to understand deeper in terms of architecture. And like what Priscilla mentioned, we should talk more to our developers and also to the stakeholders, which I was also reluctant to do in my initial days of my career. I was so shy to talk to my developers because I was not really confident what I know as technical is not technical to them. Then once I started to talk, everything started to change, because when we start conversation in the similar language, they actually understand our pain points, and we can actually convey what we exactly do and what we exactly need from them, and things become more easier. So yeah, don't play the cat and mouse game. just be friends.
I love that, but what are we going to do, Nit and Priscilla, in a world of social media where everyone gets clickbait off of pitting developers versus QA? What are we going to do for content if we're all friends? Poor Nitin. Nitin's going to murder me.
We can always have friendly debates, right? We can always have friendly debates, and that is where we both learn. So friendly debates are fine, not into fights.
I like that. Priscilla, you're going to say something.
Yeah, exactly. You remember during our school days, like we'll have one person in the class that will always fight healthily for getting the first rank with them, right? So we need someone to compete. Of course, then only then the relationship is healthy, and we will not be bored as well. Else we'll definitely bored without the developers.
I can appreciate that. And I want to say as well too, like I am so excited about y'all's talks that are coming up. But I want to also hold a space too, y'all. These are interactive sessions that go by really quickly. We love these small group discussions. So if any of you have any questions, you can go ahead and request the mic, and we'll get them in the order that they're received. But I want to go back a little bit more, y'all. We've talked about flaky tests. We've talked about ways to deal with them. We talked a little bit about more effective ways to partner with your software development teams, the trends that we're seeing towards API testing, as well as kind of the difference between UI and API. I want to talk a little bit more around vanity metrics because this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I understand you had made a quote earlier, Nitin, and you talked about measurement. I believe that quote was from, I think it was Peter Drucker. Yeah, you can't improve what you don't measure. So we're talking a little bit more about measuring what matters, right? Within the context of UI versus API. Can you run us through that thought process as an engineering leader? How do you know what to measure that matters?
Okay, so I think I can recollect what I said in the LinkedIn post itself. So having thousands of automated tests that doesn't give us proper value is a vanity metrics. So if we have 5 to 10 critical test cases, that is a combination of more faster, that gives us a more faster output, and also it is not flaky along the line, gives us more value, which is an actionable metrics which we can gather. So again, if there is a test that takes a significant amount of time to run, that one we need to identify, and we should start evaluating what causes that significant amount. And then we come up with an actionable item to optimize that particular test. And also in terms of application, we can actually see what exactly we can do.
Gosh, you're running for like QA mayor right now, and I love
So
it.
what matters, because previously in one of my organizations, I don't want to quote the name, there was a KPI we had based on the number of bugs we report, we get an appraisal. So you should report X number of bugs in order to have an appraisal, which for me is a vanity metrics. And throughout my career, I didn't wanted to have that KPI for my team members when I become a manager, because reporting 100 cosmetic issues doesn't make you a good tester. Having one critical issue can make you a like critically thinking tester, right? So having that actionable sort of output is what exactly makes us a good tester.
Again, taking us to API testing church here, and I 100% agree with that. Be the manager that you never had. I'm curious for you, Priscilla, too, talking about measuring what matters, talking about vanity metrics and API testing here. How do you determine what you measure with your team?
Okay. Thank you so much, Nitin, for being so honest, because every tester has been through that sort of journey. Like, number of defects is directly proportional to your performance. So it happened in most of the projects. So when I was also into that kind of hole before getting into a lot of exposure, But as you mentioned, even I'm not doing that to my team right now. So my measurement is more towards right now. Honestly, is more towards the performance metrics of my APIs, like how they are being performed, and that is what the metrics that right now we are more focused towards. So, and also when it comes to the percentage of automation, like that is one place that we focus more towards. And another metric which we always uh, not getting enough attention is like because sometimes the developers quickly push the defects for testing, but when we retest, it's getting failed, right? So this is one of my topmost metric, like number of retests failed. So I'll always try to track that because that is something which I have to capture as part of my cycle planning because retesting effort is something that we don't capture in our estimates also. We always think about test execution, but defect retesting holds a lot of time. So that is also one measure like which I have to emphasize in my planning. So literally, if you see my estimates, I'll always plan some time, some buffer time for defect planning, defect retesting as well. And I ensure my testers to always report to me if the defect is not getting fixed in cycle of more than 2 or 3 uh, retests after that. That's all I could remember right now. Interesting.
I love that. I love that. Nitin, is there anything that you wanted to add to that as well before I get to my next juicy topic?
I think I can add one more. So one of the metrics which I also keep track is something very similar to the retest effort. We call it automation stability, and what I don't aim for is I don't want to see 100%. We do have nightly runs that is happening within our org. During the nightly runs, we actually have a dashboard which populates the test status and all. If it is 100%, then definitely the team will go and check. Is there anything wrong with the test? And that is where they identify the importance of randomizing the test cases and also adding more fuss into the test cases so that we could actually ensure that the 100% is really 100%. So having a measure on automation stability and evaluating or questioning whether the stability is really stable or not actually can give us more insights in terms of metric.
This is super, super insightful too. And there was a question that I had from someone who just DM'd me, and I think we covered on it very, very lightly, but just for them because they're shy here. I want to talk a little bit more about how many times do you run a flaky test? They're asking, how many times do you run a flaky test you've attempted to fix before you believe it's fixed? We talked a little bit about that. I just want to what would be your recommended practice again? How many times do you run a flaky test that you've attempted to fix before you believe it's fixed?
I would say 2 to 3 times max, and then if it is not fixed again, we will be what the team does is we will be having a catch up call together to see what exactly is wrong and how we can optimize or fix it. So after that 3 to 4 times, we actually kind of like deprioritize the test. We won't be having it in the upcoming nightly runs or series of regression executions. We will just deprioritize. And after a while, maybe after 1 week or 2 weeks, we will rerun the test again for one more time to see whether it's exactly fixed or not. Because going back to what I said initially, it could be something related to our emulator or something related to our cloud device provider or some infra changes apart from the code changes, right? So having it a rerun after a fixed frequency can actually help us to identify whether it's fixed or not. So 3 to 4, and again after a fixed frequency rerun.
You are such a quality professional. You said 2 to 3, and then now you said 3 to 4. Oh my gosh, perfectionism. I'm here for it. That's funny. Pricilla?
It's the I don't think that there could be a specific number, Tristan, but yeah, a few times I'll be
Sure.
doing it. Then for sure, what I have to done in personally is like yeah, we used to monitor that test case for a specific trend, and we need that trend to analyze more about that flaky test. And sometimes even the next versions have automatically, say for example, there was a new build for the application, and once it is being built, deployed, we have seen some of the flaky tests has been automatically been is the issue has been resolved as well. So monitoring has helped us in a very better way to understand the trend of that, like when it is failing, why it is failing, is there any specific time or due to the load. Like sometimes this has helped us.
Hmm. That's super, super helpful. Just thinking about those that are listening in on this recording and reading the blog recap later, what's a common misconception about API testing that you want to completely clear the air about and dispel? If you could just wave a magic wand, if there was one misconception about API testing that you were just like, I would like to erase that, what would that be, Pricilla?
Think like being an API tester needs a lot of coding knowledge. Like you have to be an expert in programming knowledge. That doesn't have to be that way. As I mentioned before, and as Nitin quoted before, fundamentals are your best here. They are going to be your best buddies, and not your programming language knowledge or nothing else. Because I strongly believe that any tester uh, who can learn a programming language basics, because we are not going to develop any front end application, right? We're going to write our test cases. We're going to build your framework, write your test cases. So if you have a strong analytical skill along with the fundamentals of basics of API and API testing, definitely you can master any API testing tool. So that's a basic myth. And if you are feeling intimidated about that, like the coding knowledge is required, rule it out today. That's it. I will say about it.
I love that. That's so on point, and we're going to use that as a quote later because that was important and inspiring and very insightful. Nitin, if you could wave a magic wand and dispel one common myth about API testing.
Don't follow it because it is a trend. Follow it because you need it. So if you are just following the trend, you won't be earning value out of it. So just follow it because you need it in order to optimize your test. And what I can just say is, if you could write just a API test for something, do that instead of writing a UI test and having more flakiness into your test.
Mm, you said a mouthful, friend. I really appreciate that. And lastly, too, for those that are going to be listening to this recording, as a stage I just want to apologize. These are usually we usually have about like 20 or so people, but I think with the new link, we're having some issues here. So it's not about the quantity of people, it's about the quality of the recording and the insights. So I appreciate you both. But I wanted to ask you both for anyone who is coming out for Agile Testing Days USA, can you give us a sneak preview of your talk? What's a key takeaway that attendees will gain from seeing your talk in person? And just low key, I'm so excited to finally meet you both in person. Like, I am thrilled about this. But Priscilla, first, what's a key takeaway that attendees are going to get from your talk?
My title sums up everything, Tristan. Like API testing for everyone. That sums up everything. Like it's not only for developers, or it's not only for technical QAs, or it's only for QAs who has an expertise of more than 5 years. No such prerequisites. So there is no such prerequisite. I can even start from the basics. So what they can expect from my talk is like from basics to a kind of a level between intermediate and advanced level, what they should know about or around this API testing topics. So after my talk, what happened will like they'll be so much confident to explore, to approach towards API testing. So they can expect from basics to intermediate and a few advanced topics as well. And definitely they'll be more confident and they'll know how to get started. I'll be providing some resources also after the talk, where they can, because it's not a day one activity that we should stop at a conference, so that they have to explore and get their hands dirty along with me. And after a few days also, they should be able to do that on their own. So, and anyways, I'm always available on LinkedIn, and you know that, right? So I can help them.
I love that. I love that. Nitin, little key takeaway that people are going to get from your talk.
I do have two sessions, and the title is a bit more complex. So, yeah, thanks, Christy, for asking this. So, the first one is on mobile app testing. We will be having a workshop. It's a combo session, actually. We will be going through different testing techniques here, multiple mobile app testing heuristics, and also incorporating modern testing concepts into how we can apply that while we are performing testing for mobile apps, and a live demo on testing a mobile app along with certain tools and how we can have proper testing strategies, which is more actionable and more practical. So that is about the combo session. And the next one is about uh, forgotten topics in our software development, because the idea of which was actually inspired from the Eurostar theme, which is software development is actually a social activity. So I just tweaked it. Software testing is actually again a social activity too, because if we are even if we are having a communication breakdown within the organization, that impacts the quality of the thing which we are delivering. So it's a social activity where a lot of communication and collaboration happens. So we will be touching about those core concepts, what we need to do in order to make it more social, and we will also be going through uh, some sort of like a neuroscience mixture into testing aspects, where testers can get some insight and uh, test better. Yeah.
Wow, you both are going to be busy. Are you ready for these talks?
Yes. And we are excited to meet you also.
Oh, I'm so excited. Like you both are just and Tara who's listening in. Well, don't you worry, Tara. We'll find a way to make this work. We're just going to delete your entire mobile history and redo this whole application for you. And by that I don't mean the code that Elon Musk is working on right now. But Priscilla, for you, I'm curious as well. How are you, because there's people who are going to be listening to this recording. How are you preparing for this talk? In addition to your years of experience in this industry, like what is something that you're using right now to get ready for this talk? Are you doing more research with other thought leaders? Are you doing more experimentation? Are you doing any like community outreach? Like what are you doing to get ready?
Okay. Of course, I do have, I'm doing a lot of research, Tristan, but one thing which I always keep in my mind is like when I started having started my API testing journey, it was not that easy. The roads are bumpy because I don't even know what's an API when I started. So I am a kind of story person because I need a story to relate and understand more like what's happening around me. So I really felt hard to understand. But after getting to know more about it, after falling in love with APIs, what I felt is like now it's a kind of responsibility for me to go back and educate our testers. And because right now I know that most of them have to travel through the same pathway of API testing which I traveled, but I don't want that to be a kind of bumpy road. I'm trying to make it as smooth as possible for them with some signboards keeping here and there, like what they have to do next and how it's going to be helpful for them. So I'm just trying to make the journey easier for them. So in that case, I'll be sharing my lessons learned, my hardships, what made me a better person today. But at the same time, I won't make it that easy, a kind of spoon feeding. That's why I said like I'll be making the pathway easier, but I'll be keeping the signboards here and there so that the testers can understand and they can explore on their own, which is going to stay as a lifelong learning along with them, because that's how I learned. So but I don't want them to learn the hardest way. I'm here as a buddy, I can definitely guide them, but they have to go through the process where they have to explore on their own, they understand more. So along with my research, I'm just trying to come up with some activities which is going to be really exciting for them, and also some intriguing questions. And I'm just thinking to keep the floor open for a few minutes. And overall it's a different experience because I have done a lot of workshops and based on especially for this API testing. So I'm just trying to make it a kind of blend because this is the first time that it has to be kind of talk come workshop. So, of course, as you said, it's my research, my thought process, and my feel of sharing this to my special QA testers. Like that, that is something it's making this talk going to be special. I think so.
I know everyone is going to just genuinely take away so much from this talk. Remember that part of the end-to-end stage mom guarantee is that you do book a little time with me, because I have a few additional ideas for you after hearing some keywords from you.
Yes.
Super, super, super inspiring, and that got me really excited. Nitin, I'm curious for you, for your two talks, how are you, in addition to the research, in addition to, the community and your insights, how are you preparing for these talks? Like, is there anything you could recommend to anyone else who's listening to this recording, who's getting ready for a conference talk, whether at Agile TD USA or another software testing conference?
I'm actually talking to more people because it's more or less same like what Priscilla mentioned. I am more into mobile app testing field since a few years. So I want everyone to have that journey as much easy as possible. So the talk is more starting from a basic level into a bit more advanced level. So I'm actually curating some testing challenges, which I am practicing along with my team members to see how easy it is and how complex it is and how they can actually solve those challenges. So what I'm doing is pairing up with my team members, and also I'm talking with many community members to get some insight on both these topics. And when it comes to the second one, which is the social activity concept, uh, I'm talking to many thought leaders in the industry because I wanted to get their insights as well. Concept usually forgotten, not really forgotten. So yeah, having more talks and pairing and doing experiments along with community members, it's what makes me prepared for this talk.
I love this. I love this. Lastly, too, are y'all coming in earlier or later? Chicago.
We haven't finalized yet on the travel dates, but probably earlier,
Yeah,
2 3 days earlier at least.
same with me.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'm going to send you all a list of some suggestions once that happens, and definitely book some time with Stage Mom after this call. I can get up, 6 a.m. whenever. See me today for more information, dear readers. But I want to say, I want to say thank you so much, Nitin, for staying up late in your part of the world on this work trip. And I want to say, Priscilla, as well. Thank you for just waking up early, and for being such a light, the both of you. And I know everyone who is listening to this recording, because we do quality recordings, and our blog recap is also going to take away a lot. And then I just want to say as well, too, I cannot wait to see you all. It's May's around the corner. Tara, I'm going to see you, and we're going to sort out this Twitter app for you. But any closing words for any of our listeners? Any inspiring words for anyone who is scared about API testing but knows that it's something that they've always been interested in? Priscilla.
I would say there is nothing to be shied away or getting scared of before starting with API test. I'm so sure that the testers will love the journey, and it's not just because the trend is doing. And I also see there is a lot of pressure right now because in every resume that they are depending, like that they're demanding the skills of API tester. But please don't think that it's not from another planet or something. We testers have managed to learn many other skills like this before. Like when new type of testing comes, we can definitely hop in and we can learn in a very faster pace, right? So this is not something that it's from alien zone. You can definitely learn, and there are a lot of people ready to help out there, and there are a lot of resources as well. So just stay strong and stay positive, and thank you for this space, Tristan. And it was lovely catching up with all of you, and we are personally looking forward to see you as well.
Same, same. I want to say you've given us, despite the technical Twitter challenges, this conversation was golden, and there have been so many good quotes. So I cannot wait to recap us in a blog and inspire others on social media with some of these gold nuggets that you both have shared. Just for you as well, Nitin, any last words of encouragement for anyone who's afraid to start with API testing, but knows that it's something that it's in their DNA and it's in their future?
Don't be scared. We don't know until we try, right? And the community is always there to help you out. So talk to people, ask for resources, and try it out instead of stuck in that comfort zone of yours.
I love that. And you cannot measure, what is it? You cannot improve. What is the quote? Let's find this one more time.
If you cannot measure, you cannot improve.
Yes, Peter Trucker for the win. I want to say thank you so much because we are just a few minutes over. Nitin, Pricilla, thank you so much for your time. Cannot wait to see you. Y'all that are listening to the recording, just remember that Agile TD USA, they've got amazing discounts across the board, whether you're in the Chicago metro area and you want to come for a one-day tutorial and or you want to come for the full conference, which we advise. Early bird tickets are still on sale. And if you're a part of a team, the more team members you have, the more deals that you get. And or if you're a part of a recent, layoff in tech, please reach out to us because they definitely have, they can work with you in your budget too. Pricilla, Nitin, Tara, I adore you all so much, and I'm going to see you in May, and I can't wait for this recording to go public. Thank you from the bottom of Stage Mom's heart, and do not forget to book time with me because I am so ready for a little workshopping with you both. But ta-ta for now. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Priscilla. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.